This is the untold story of a conversation that never saw the light of day, a private off-air sit-down between Zendaya and veteran entertainment anchor Nancy O'Dell, so combustible that network executives ordered the broadcast killed before a single viewer ever tuned in. What follows is the full, unedited account of their verbal duel, two professionals sparring in the silence of a locked studio, wielding questions and answers like weapons, driven by clashing convictions. The studio sat hushed in darkness, save for the red glow of the record light blinking insistently atop the console. Cameras lined up like silent sentinels around a simple wooden desk draped in navy velvet. Behind a polished lens, Zendaya's silhouette was calm, poised, her silver gown reflecting the faint crimson gleam. Across from her, Nancy O'Dell sat with the razor-edge composure of a seasoned journalist, her notes neatly stacked but her expression undeniably tense. A producer's voice crackled through the intercom. No broadcast, record only. With that, the world beyond the studio walls faded away, leaving these two figures alone in a chamber of unspoken promises and suppressed spectacle. Nancy leaned forward, the faint click of her pen punctuating the hush. "Zendaya," she began evenly, "tonight was meant to be a live global event, millions of viewers waiting for fireworks, but apparently you and I were judged too volatile for prime time. So here we are, off-air, every word destined for a vault. Let's make this conversation worth whatever risk you represent." Zendaya's gaze remained steady on Nancy. A half-smile curved her lips. In her mind flared a flashback to a rain-drenched Atlanta backlot, hooded lights cutting through mist, water dripping from her eyelashes as she tore 5 pages of script in two, an act of defiance against a story she refused to dilute. She inhaled slowly and spoke, voice crisp. "Vital," she echoed. "I thought honesty was exactly what audiences needed, but if asking for truth means we're too hot for broadcast, then let's embrace the heat." Nancy's practiced facade flickered, her shoulders tensing ever so slightly. She tapped her pen against the desk. "Let's begin with last night's gala. One viral photograph showed you leaning away from your co-star in a group shot. Was that a candid moment of discomfort, an on-set rift, or simply a misread posture?" Zendaya's eyes glinted with challenge. She leaned forward, the subtle rustle of her gown echoing in the quiet room. "I was thinking about the character I'll play next," she said. "Cameras freeze a single frame. They don't capture the mind racing with creative possibilities. That photo reflected my focus, not friction." Nancy arched an eyebrow. "Creative focus or diva aloofness? Critics say your brand eclipses your craft, that you're more trendsetter than thespian. Thoughts?" A low hum of tension vibrated through the cables beneath their feet. Zendaya closed her eyes briefly, recalling her first acting class in Oakland, dusty folding chairs, trembling lines delivered under harsh fluorescent bulbs, and a teacher's tear-filled nod that told her she belonged on stage. She opened her eyes and replied calmly, "My craft is the bedrock of everything I do. If my public presence elevates stories that deserve attention, whether through film or charitable work, then my visibility serves a purpose beyond personal gain." Nancy's pen hit the pad harder this time, the edges of her notepad creasing under pressure. "Speaking of charitable work, secret charitable work, you've funded community theaters, scholarship programs, even mental health initiatives, all anonymously. Why hide your name?" Zendaya's pulse flickered as she remembered the shy young dancer in Oakland who cried tears of joy when told her tuition was covered, the mural in a South LA park that blossomed overnight because of overnight grants. She took a measured breath. "Because those stories belong to the recipients, not the benefactor. If the kids take their bows, I want them to stand in the spotlight alone." Nancy paused, surprised by the warmth in Zendaya's tone. She flicked to the next page of her notes. "Then let's rewind 2 months to the shoot for Silver Screen in Atlanta. An email leaked, one you allegedly sent, demanding script rewrites at midnight, threatening to walk if you didn't get your way. Diva behavior, or devotion to authenticity?" Zendaya's chest tightened, and for a heartbeat her composure wavered. In her mind re-emerged that night, trailer lights flickering, scrolls of annotated dialogue strewn across a folding table, tears brimming as she argued for her character's integrity. She steadied herself. "I refuse to betray the character's essence," she said. "If protecting a story's truth labels me difficult, I'll wear the badge. Better difficult than dishonest." The slide of Nancy's pen slowed as she sensed the shift. She glanced at her earpiece, then met Zendaya's eyes squarely. "You call it integrity. I call it inflexibility. But let's talk about loyalty. Your crew watched you storm off set, cameras idling, budgets ballooning. Did you consider the people whose paychecks and schedules were upended?" Zendaya's gaze softened with empathy. "I considered every single person there. But a story reduced to convenience is a story not worth telling. I owed the crew my honesty, as much as I owed the audience. Nancy's lip curled in reluctant respect. She tapped the desk twice. Honesty, yet off-air audio from our preparations leaked online. Your candid rants, criticisms of co-stars, raw frustrations. How does it feel to have your private words weaponized for clicks? Zendaya closed her eyes, recalling the betrayal, a clandestine recording device, smuggled by an overzealous assistant. She felt the sting, but refused to react defensively. Opening her eyes, she spoke evenly. Privacy is trust foundation. When personal moments are exploited for sensationalism, the entire conversation loses value. I owe the audience entire truths, not staged betrayals. A charged silence followed. Nancy set her pen aside, her voice softened to something almost confessional. Yesterday at the press junket, when someone asked about your parents' reaction to your meteoric rise, your voice cracked. You project such unshakable confidence. Does that crack still haunt you? Zendaya allowed herself a fragile half-smile. She pictured her parents' proud tears on the day of her first award, the quiet phone calls filled with unconditional love. I don't chase approval, she answered. I seek connection. Their belief grounds me. Every role I choose, every word I speak, is a thank you to them, and to everyone who saw promise in a nervous teenager. Nancy nodded, moved despite herself. The red light continued its silent pulse. She reached for her final card, then paused, and sighed. Zendaya, you walked in here prepared for an ambush. I walked in ready to weaponize questions, but tonight we traded barbs and found something more powerful, a shared pursuit of truth. Thank you for that. Zendaya's genuine smile lit her face. She inclined her head slightly. And thank you for giving me a reason to speak mine. They leaned back, the record lights still aglow, a silent witness to a rare moment of mutual understanding. Outside, the gala raged into the night, champagne corks popping, laughter echoing against marble columns. But here, behind locked doors, two professionals had redefined the rules of engagement. Over the following days, industry whispers gave life to the legend of this unaired encounter. Interns traded typed transcripts. Showrunners mused about creating safe rooms where guests and hosts could spar in private. Journalism schools assigned the dialogue as a case study in ethics and empathy. A late-night producer floated a new segment, Off the Air, inspired by the brutal honesty of that locked-away conversation. In a quiet screening room weeks later, Nancy and Zendaya gathered with a handful of trusted collaborators. Under the ghostly glow of a projector, they watched their own words play across the screen, every inflection, every flash of emotion. Laughter punctuated moments of unexpected levity, tears shimmered at passages of raw vulnerability. When the final frame faded to black, a hushed reverence filled the space. They had crafted something unprecedented, and its power lay in its solitude. Beyond that vault, the clip never aired, and yet its echo resonated. A fan artist created a digital painting, capturing the moment their gazes clashed. A philanthropist donated to youth theater in Zendaya's name. A journalism professor posted an excerpt on an academic bulletin board, igniting debate on the balance between public right to know and private trust. Months later, at an industry awards ceremony honoring unseen excellence, both women stood on stage under bright spotlights, finally their due. Nancy accepted a trophy for redefining interview integrity, dedicating it to questions that build bridges, not walls. Zendaya followed, dedicating her award to stories told with courage and compassion. Their applause rang out into an arena full of cameras they once distrusted, an ironic validation of the off-air pact they shared. Even now, deep in network archives, a single tape reel marked Zendaya and O'Dell private session rests under lock and key. Its legend persists not because it was hidden, but because its contents remain too honest for the glare of public consumption. And every so often, when studio lights dim and silence settles, someone presses play and bears witness to two formidable talents sparring in the dark, proving that the fiercest truths sometimes burn brightest off-camera. In the weeks that followed that fateful, never-aired exchange, its reverberations continued to ripple through both Zendaya's world and Nancy O'Dell's alike. Though the interview itself remained locked in an encrypted vault, its legend grew in whispers and second-hand accounts. Industry insiders referenced the fire and the quiet of their off-record sparring as a blueprint for authenticity. Producers speculated on new safe space segments where hosts and guests could engage without broadcast pressures. For Zendaya, the aftermath was contemplative and quietly triumphant. She returned to set on her next film with renewed purpose, refusing to sign off on scripts that didn't honor her character's humanity. Crew members, some of whom had witnessed her midnight rewrite sessions, remarked on a newfound confidence in her leadership, as if the vehemence of that unaired clash had crystallized her commitment to truth in every performance. Off-camera, she quietly increased her support for the Oakland Theater program, personally visiting after-school workshops and sharing tips with young actors who, inspired by her example, dared to demand authenticity in their own fledgling roles. Nancy, too, felt the tremor of change. Invitations poured in for speaking engagements at journalism schools, where students pored over the interview's transcript as required reading. In her own newsroom, she championed a pilot initiative called Voice Without Fear, giving both hosts and interviewees the option to record segments off-air, unedited, before deciding which moments genuinely warranted a broader audience. Colleagues observed that even her on-air demeanor had softened. The next time she sat behind a desk, her questions bore not only the edge of thorough investigation, but also an undercurrent of genuine curiosity and respect. Months later, the network quietly commissioned a short documentary, never to air in prime time, detailing the evolution of on-camera conversations. Though the original Zendaya O'Dell tape remained absent from every broadcast, snippets of their philosophy about integrity over sensationalism, empathy over ambush, found their way into voiceovers and expert panels, and somewhere, late at night, a lone archivist pressed play on that secured reel, allowing the hidden footage to illuminate a small conference room packed with young storytellers and broadcasters. As the first words flickered on the dimmed monitor, the same red recording sign glowed, and a hushed awe settled over the group. In that clandestine screening, two truths burned brightest: that courage sometimes speaks loudest in silence, and that the most enduring conversations are those brave enough to remain off the air, not because it was hidden, but because its contents remain too honest for the glare of public consumption. And every so often, when studio lights dim and silence settles, someone presses play and bears witness to two formidable talents sparring in the dark, proving that the fiercest truth sometimes burned brightest off camera.